I just don't want you to fight, you know.
That's the one, right?
That one right there, yeah. I want you, there's black.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Take that little like recording thing off. Here we go. That's what I needed. Focus on content. Or did we want? Does it matter? Okay. Oh, Laura, give me or Laura. Yeah. Yeah. In the chat, we can tag me on that, but we can just add the question.
Okay. Dr. Robbie was able to make it, so we'll go ahead and get started. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, she heard, oh, she probably heard through the laptop, right? Because this is muted. Oh, the mic's in here? Oh, okay.
Tiffany, I'm assuming you're controlling the slides.
Yes, I am. So you'll just have to tell me when you're ready for your next slide.
Right.
If you didn't sign in, whether virtual attendance or in person, go ahead and scan the QR code just so you can get credit for attending in person today. We will record this session and then publish it to our website as well. So if you need to leave early, no worries. We've got your attendance credit and you'll have it later on the website as well.
Awesome. Are we ready? Or yeah, there it is.
Yep.
Cool. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending. I apologize I couldn't be there in person. I had something come up today. But thank you for attending. And hopefully you'll, well, I know you'll get some useful information from our workshop today. The first thing I'd ask if you are not speaking, please put yourself on mute. If you have a question, please raise your virtual hand at any time, or you can put your question in the chat. I think Tiffany will be monitoring the chat, I'm assuming, or is that someone else's responsibility?
Either Alex or Laura, somebody that's in the room.
Okay. And then, so with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I think the first slide, hopefully after this, is the agenda or the outline. Yay, all right. So as you can see, we're going to go through a lot of process and policy stuff today regarding your dissertation or thesis submission. Up to this point, we are assuming that you've had discussions, numerous discussions, probably with your mentor and your research committee about the content and organization and layout and data and everything that will be included in your dissertation or thesis. And so what we want to do today is really help you go through the process. Once you're ready to defend what that will look like, and then even after you defend what's going to happen next. And so really to guide you through this process and answer any questions that you might have regarding submission of your dissertation into ProQuest, which is our institutional repository for defenses, virtual, and then also utilizing Turnitin adequately so that you maintain the veracity, I guess, of your writing. So with that, I guess we'll go to the first slide, the next slide, I mean, showing you who you can go to with questions. It disappeared. There it is. So there we are. These are the individuals that will help guide you through the process. Myself, Tiffany, Alex, who is in the room, I believe, and Marcus and Laura are all there. Kyle, I'm not sure if he's there in person or virtually, but Kyle is our new analyst programmer for GradTrack. And so, as you've probably heard, we have moved away and are moving away from Impact into a new system called GradTrack. And so Kyle is our resident expert on that. And so those individuals and emails and telephone numbers for contacting people if you ever have questions. Marcus and Laura will do most of the post-submission formatting through ProQuest. And so, I would encourage you, and we'll talk about this again. There is a rubric that will be available, and we'll touch on that, as well as templates that are available. Alex has actually gone through and made a complete template so that everything is set. All you need to do is put in your own content. And so trying to make this as streamlined and as painless as possible for you. I think that's it for me for now, I believe. Correct? Tiffany, are you next?
Yes.
All right.
Sorry, I was muted.
Thank you.
I will take over from here, and then Marcus will join me for the formatting piece, and then Dr. Robbie will join us again at the end of the presentation. So thank you all, virtual and in person, for attending. We know that you have just made an immense effort to get to this milestone in your academic career. We're so proud of you for that. Hold on just a little bit longer. We've got several things that you need to do in order to graduate. We know that senioritis is high, but if you are an open communicator with our office and you're very proactive in the deadlines that I'll present to you today, you should not have a problem making it through this. So we're here to support you any way that we can, and I'll go ahead and present the next 3 slides. So for those that are fall 2024 graduates, this may not exactly apply to you. This applies more for our spring 2025 graduates, but I like to include this information just in case you get to the end of this term, you get to the defense deadlines, and you don't quite make it for December defense. The next 3 slides will really come in handy to know what your next steps are if you do end up needing to apply for graduation for the following semester. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about graduation, applying for graduation. You should have applied if you are defending this semester already. If you have not, there is a link in this presentation for the late application to graduation. Late fees will apply on that. For the spring graduates, I saw that the email went out today for anyone who had an expected graduation term of 2025. So if you are expected to graduate in spring of 2025 and you did not get an email today, make sure that you check your student information, make sure everything is up to date and that your expected graduation term is correct. Correct that and then reach out to the registrar's office about your next steps. So you should have completed your final academic advising session with your academic program coordinator for fall. You may be on the cusp of completing that if you will be graduating in spring. So it's basically your final degree audit. The registrar's office, once you apply to graduation, will also complete an audit on your behalf just to make sure that you have met all of your credit hours, all of your degree plan requirements. Your transfer hours are accounted for. If you had any modifications to your plan of study, everything is accounted for and you won't have any surprises at the end of the term. That's the last thing that we want for you. And so then you would remove all holds, register for courses, in absentia registration for February or final hours for next term. Oh, sorry. So I'll talk a little bit more about in absentia and final hours on the next couple of slides. So international students, if you are going to miss your degree conferral deadline, then you need to reach out to OIS 60 days prior to your end date. If you end up needing to move your degree conferral date, extensions need to be completed well in advance. And if you don't complete an extension and your end date passes, you will be kindly asked to leave the country by Homeland Security. So just make sure that you get that extension into the Office of International Services. It's very important. In absentia registration. So this students are required to be registered for the semester that they graduate. So this status is really helpful to students who have completed all the degree requirements for graduation, but didn't quite meet the deadlines, say in the fall 2024 semester. You have defended, you have entered all of your information, you've given us all of your documentation, but you didn't meet the defense deadline, which is, I believe, November 18th for our December conferral. So you might use this status to be registered for the following semester. In that case, your degree conferral date would fall in February. In absentia students are the only students that fall on our alternate degree conferral dates, which are August and February. So to complete that process, if you get towards the end of the semester, you know that you're not going to quite make the deadlines, reach out to Dr. Robbie and I, see what your options are, let us know, and then we can help you fill out these forms, get everything signed, and make sure that you're registered for next semester and have completed everything that you need to complete to qualify for this status. I will note that in absentia status does not require that you are enrolled as a full-time student. It counts as a full-time status, and there's a small fee of $25, plus any university fees or things that would apply to you, like student health insurance. International students, unfortunately, are not eligible for in absentia registration. It is considered 0 credit hours, so it's not sufficient for maintaining your education visa. And then final hours I'm sorry, is there a question? No? Okay. Final hours registration is a status for students who are entering their final term, their final semester. You can use this status one time only for your academic career, and it requires that students must be registered for a minimum of 1 semester credit hour. So you can be registered for more than 1 credit hour if you are still needing credit hours to meet your dissertation or thesis hours for your program, but you won't be penalized at all as far as from a financial aid perspective. You will be considered a full-time student under final hour status, so loan repayment won't go into consideration, and you'll still be meeting the requirements for programs such as IBMS, where you're required to be a full-time student always. So the student for this designation will pay the tuition and fees based on the number of credit hours you register for. So if you register for one, you only have to pay tuition and fees for one semester credit hour, and then your fees on top of that, your health insurance and other university fees you might pay. And then international students are eligible to register for the status. You need to let the Office of International Services know that you need to apply for a reduced course load plan at least 1 month prior to the start of the next term. So for our spring students, I would recommend that you begin reaching out to them in October. A lot of offices within the university start taking vacations. People are out during the months of November and December. And so I think it's wise to start that process in October, just so you make sure that you don't miss any deadlines. And then the request for final hours is on the university website. Let me see if I can switch screens to this. I'll have to come back and show you where this is on the university website. If I switch screens right now, I'll turn everything off. Okay. Any questions about graduation and absentia final hours registration before we move on? Okay, I take that as a no. So this next slide is just a small snapshot of all of the items that you will be completing for your dissertation or thesis or manuscript defense. So you will have submitted your application for graduation. Hopefully at this point you have been in discussion with your committee if you're graduating this semester. If you're graduating next semester, you should start having these conversations of your readiness to defend, looking at the timelines for this term and next term to determine what is the best defense date for you. So once you set a defense date according to the degree conferral timeline that you'll be using, you will start by reserving a space with your academic program coordinator. They can also assist you with setting up a virtual meeting. Although it's not required to have a virtual meeting, we do recommend it. There are many times when our deans are busy juggling several different meetings and requirements. And so if your defense is over on the Greehey campus or another off-campus site, it just helps the juggling of all the meetings if there's a virtual meeting attached. And then, of course, as well for your external committee members, if applicable. From there, you would submit your paper to turn it in. We've got a very detailed slides to come after this. So if it seems like I'm rushing through this, I apologize. I will note that the top blue and top purple are outlined in red because you do need that information. You do need your date and your room reservation, all of your defense information for the form that you will submit, which is called your request for final defense form. And you will submit that in our new form system called GradTrack. Once that's made its way through the approval process, I will generate your GSBS defense announcement, which is your public announcement. We're required to send this out on your behalf. Once you send me your headshot and I verify that your form is fully signed, I'll send it out to the GSBS community. I will send you a draft of that just to verify that all of the information is correct. So if you see some emails from me, please be prompt in your response so we can make sure that those defense announcements get sent out in a timely manner. Then you'll defend. And then within 2 business days of your defense, you should submit your request for final defense. And your coordinator or mentor would also need to let Dr. Robbie in our office know that you have passed your defense so that we can send you some follow-up information that you will need. After that, your committee will review. You'll submit any final revisions to your committee. When they have verified that your paper is complete, then you can submit it to ProQuest for your revisions on formatting from the GSBS. A lot of students think that once they're done with their committee revisions, that they're done with the whole process. They submit it to ProQuest and everything's all over. That's not the case. You'll probably go through several revision sessions with one of our editors. And it should go fairly quickly if you respond to the emails quickly. And then once that is all approved, you'll submit your final GSBS approved ProQuest submission, your final version of your dissertation or thesis to turn it in, and then you'll complete all documentation and surveys that have been required along the way. I will verify that all of the steps have been completed so that your degree can be presented at the Graduate Faculty Council meeting by your COGS chair. If you do not complete all of the documentation steps and you don't complete all of the steps in the timeline, I'm sorry, there is a chance that you could delay your graduation, your degree conferral by a semester, which would require registration, all of that stuff. So just make sure that you're very proactive about getting all of these items into us. Okay. So our upcoming GSBS degree conferral dates. The August conferral date has already passed. The deadline for that has passed. And so we have a few students who are conferring out today. Our next upcoming degree conferral deadline is December 27th. So if you are planning to graduate this semester, you would follow the December 2024 degree conferral timeline on our website, which can be found in this link below. For February, if you don't quite meet all of the deadline requirements, then you would apply for an absentia registration status, and then your degree would confer in February 28th, 2025. And then the spring conferral dates are May 23rd and June 30th. So for June 30th, we do have some special instructions on that timeline that are very important that you adhere to if you're wanting to participate in either commencement or hooding. There's a different deadline for you to defend so that we can confirm that you are in fact meeting all the requirements for your degree to pass so that you can participate in those activities. And then finally, all students from the academic year from August 2024 through June 2025 are eligible to participate in our spring commencement and hooding ceremony. And then up here, you'll see for summer 2025, our PhD Health Sciences and PhD Nursing Sciences students oftentimes will be registered for a summer semester. It's a little bit different from the GSBS academic calendar. And so we'll have a different date. It usually corresponds with our August date that their degree could confer. So you would follow our August in absentia calendar essentially without being required to register for in absentia, since you will be registered in the summer 2025. Okay. Any questions about that so far? Okay, quiet group. And then important dates for pre-defense. So you should go on our website, look at the defense timeline that will fit your schedule, will fit your what your committee thinks will be your readiness to defend. Look at the final date to defend, and then you'll kind of build your defense date off of that. So 1 month prior to the defense date that you set, you'll need to submit your dissertation or thesis into the Canvas Turnitin course. You should have been enrolled in that course by me recently. If you were not and you need access to that, just let me know. And then you'll email the similarity report that you receive to your dissertation supervising professor. So Marcus will talk a little bit more about that later, but this is a very important step to not forget. 2 weeks prior to your defense, you will submit your dissertation or thesis to your research supervisory committee for review. And then you'll submit your request for final defense in GradTrack. Your form must be fully signed by all approvers at least 1 week prior to your defense, or we will opt to reschedule your defense. And then, like I said earlier, send Tiffany Thompson, myself, a photo for your public defense announcement. If you don't have a photo, that's okay. Just let me know. And then you also don't have to have a professional headshot either. You can have someone take your headshot or a photo of you outside or in a building. Just, make sure that the photo is something acceptable that your mom would approve of. Important dates post-defense. So 2 business days after your defense, your coordinator or mentor, or I guess within 2 business days of your defense, your coordinator or your mentor must send an email confirmation of your passing score to Dr. Robbie. This is often forgotten because it's like the relief of defending, passed, done. And the days after your defense is just, taking a little bit of time off. But we really need this so that we can send notifications to you detailing all of your next steps. And then you'll also submit your report for final defense and oral examination in GradTrack. Eventually, this will be automated based on your defense date, but for now, we've got them listed as 2 separate forms for your request for defense and then your report on defense. 2 weeks after your defense, you will submit your final dissertation or thesis to ProQuest for editing, and I will note that revisions may take 2 to 3 cycles. A lot of the time, the assumption is that it's just a one and done process, but it's a lot of back and forth with our editors to make sure that you've got every little thing accounted for. They're very detailed, and they'll make sure that your publication looks great. And then 1 week prior to the Graduate Faculty Council meeting, I will verify that all of your documentation has been completed. Your request for report has been fully signed. All of your edits in ProQuest are finished. Your final upload to Turnitin, your exit survey, your IPE, your survey of earned doctorate if you are a PhD student. And I will note that if you wait until the week before Graduate Faculty Council, it makes it much more stressful for everyone. So if you can just be proactive about getting all of these things done, then we won't be emailing you at the last minute to make sure that you've got everything checked off. We want you to graduate. We want you to be successful, but you have to help us with that. I will note for a change, this will be different for our coordinators and our mentors who are very used to our process by now. The GSBS no longer requires a signature page or an approval page. ProQuest let us know that for privacy and security reasons, it's not really recommended anymore to include an electronic or an ink signed copy. Someone else could go out and copy that committee member's signature. So they just recommend that you upload a blank copy. And what we mean by a blank copy is that you have your committee listed, you have Dr. Weiss listed as the dean, but no one has signed it. If you do opt to include signatures because you are printing your dissertation or thesis, we have some instructions in the presentation later on for you. And then again, students who fail to complete all of the listed items, fail to get all of the documentation into us on time, risk rescheduling your degree conferral to the next term. Any questions about the timelines, steps, processes there? So for GradTrack, this will be new for everyone here. I just want to reiterate that if you have entered your mentor form, your research proposal in Impact, that information did not disappear. We have pulled that information over from Impact into GradTrack. So when you log into GradTrack to complete these forms, you should still be able to pull that information into your research proposal. So your mentor, your external committee member, there are still some things that you'll need to fill in, like your dissertation title. And we have some new items within the form. So if you experience any glitches, if you experience any issues, please reach out to GradTrack support at utusca.edu, and Kyle will be very prompt in answering your questions or concerns. If you have any questions about support or tutorials for the forms, you need just like a little bit of guidance, but you don't necessarily need someone to help you. We have a GradTrack support website with video tutorials that can walk you through the process. You can also reach out to me if you just have general questions, and I'm happy to answer those as well. So here you will see this nifty little box whenever you log into gradtrack.integrify.com. It will say login with single sign-on, and that is an option for faculty and staff. However, students are given a live mail account, and it's not conducive to the single sign-on button yet. We're working on it in the back end. So if you could just log in with your live mail username here and your password for everything else that you use in the university and hit login, you should be good to go. If for whatever reason it's not letting you log in, you can't figure it out, again, just reach out to that GradTrack support email and they'll make sure that your profile doesn't have any problems or issues. Any questions so far? So on the next slide, when you log in as a student, this is what you're... Oh. What was the question, Marcus?
Oh, the title for applying for graduation isn't active in GradTrack yet,
It is not active yet.
so do they just apply through the registrar or?
So for now, since the form is not active, if you will be defending in the month of September, you've already set a defense date, please get a collective email from your committee members stating that the date you have set for your defense is acceptable. Send the email thread to Dr. Robbie and myself so that we can verify your committee has approved your defense date. We will let that suffice for now. You will have to come back at a later date once we launch the form, and the form will have to go through the approvals process as we turn in all of these forms to the registrar's office to complete your degree file. So we hope and suspect that this form will be available sometime in September. We're just about to launch the faculty form and the research proposal form. So the other two defense forms should fall in line right behind that one. But this is what your student portal will look like, and you'll see these tiles over to the side, and one of them will state the request for final defense and the report on final defense. At that point, you'll just click the tile and it will initiate the form for you. If you have not completed your research proposal, it will not let you submit your request for final defense. So if you didn't enter that information in Impact when Impact was live, and that information is not accounted for, the form will not let you enter your request until that process is completed.
I'm gonna pause real quick, Tiffany.
I'm sorry, Alex, what was that?
I'm gonna pause real quick. There's a student that has a question.
Okay.
So just to verify, if they're defending in October, they should still have their committee members email you to verify the date?
At this point, if they've gotten approval from their committee, I would say it doesn't hurt to have to send the email string to us of all the committee members approving the date. The form will likely be live by the time you defend, but you know, it's just, it doesn't hurt anything to go ahead and send us an email if you're defending in October.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay. Any GradTrack specific questions? Okay. And I will note one more feature in GradTrack that's a little bit different than Impact. If you have completed a form, you'll see this open tasks box right here. and it'll allow you to click on the form. It'll have a little like document icon. If you click on that, it will show you where it is in the approvals process. So if you're wondering who has signed your form, who has not signed your form, you're getting a little bit worried about a deadline, you can always go and look and see who that form is with. We have it set up that auto notifications will be sent out to your committee members every few days. But just in case they decide that they don't want to answer the request from GradTrack, or it's going to their junk mail, maybe, you can always send an email to your committee member letting them know that there's a form available for them to sign. And links, a link email will be sent to your full committee member and all of the faculty required to sign your form. So they shouldn't need to log in independently to GradTrack unless they just want to, at which point the open tasks would tell them if they had any forms to sign. They will have a link available in their email that will take them directly to the form to sign it. Okay, and with that, I will turn it over to Marcus for the formatting portion.
Thanks, Tiffany. I appreciate it. If you haven't already done so, please make sure you sign in by scanning the QR code. If you came in late and you didn't get a chance, the QR codes are at the front. Please make sure you sign in. This portion of the presentation is specifically about the Turnitin course. All right, so anybody who applied for graduation will be enrolled into Turnitin, which is in Canvas. If for some reason you do not see yourself in there, please let us know so that way we can correct that issue. As Tiffany also mentioned earlier, your initial submission should be 1 month prior to your defense. You'll get the similarity report from Canvas and you'll email that to your supervising professor. We will talk about the percentage in a future slide. So once you have the similarity report, you meet with your PI, say, hey, I think we need to exclude such and such. This is what's causing it to spike my percentage. And then you will eventually have to contact us to let us know. That will also be on a future slide. Upload your final submission within 2 weeks following the defense. The same version should also be uploaded to ProQuest. All of your formatting edits that our team will help you with must be completed at least 1 week prior to GFC meeting to review your degree conferral requests. The Turnitin process is only meant to compare your previous work to the other publications that are out there and make sure that it's not picking up too much of a percentage. It's not to penalize you like, oh, this student is cheating. No, we're just trying to get it to a good enough number so that way we can have it appear to be like your complete original work. Okay, Tiffany. All right, so the similarity report, you must fall between 0 and 24%. That is the range that we expect that is allowed. So when you go into Canvas, you'll be able to access the report. That's also on the next slide. Okay, so you'll be able to access the report and it will show you the percentage. Even if you're at 25%, that means we're gonna have to exclude one more little thing. If you want something excluded, your mentor will have to email Dr. Robbie and say, hey, can you please exclude this source from my work? Once it falls within the acceptable range, then we can proceed with reviewing your dissertation or thesis for the formatting edits. Are there any questions about the percentage or the similarity report? Yes, Jacob.
So
it can be excluded.
okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Marcus, could you please repeat the question? I couldn't hear Jacob.
Oh, yes, sir. So Jacob had asked if you had previous work from yourself being the author, what would happen? It would show up, obviously. And then the question is, you would just have to exclude it. So once you exclude your own work, then it would bring that percentage back down. And now we have a second question. So the question was, how many times can you upload it? You can upload it 4 times. If for some reason, you need an additional upload, just please contact our team and we can help you out with that.
11%. If it's like 1%, it's like very slight.
So the most recent question was, what about the similarities between the templates and the formatting issues that everyone else has to follow? Obviously, that would lead to some overlap. So most of those will be 1% or less than 1%, but we can exclude those. We're really looking for the chunks of like 10%, 8%. Those bigger chunks is that's what we're looking to exclude from your work. Are there any other questions or any questions in the? Okay. Okay, Tiff. Oh, you already did it. So this is exactly what it will look like when you go in to view your submission. So as you can see, you'll be able to hover over that, and then you can view view what your report will show. And the example is on the following slide. Oh. For some reason, if your submission is larger than usual, it may not show up within a couple of minutes like normal. If you have that issue, please contact us and we can go in and see what the report was. Tiffany, can you go back one? All right, so this is an example of the similarity report. So as you can see, each number has a percentage next to it. So whatever it's picking up, it's going to tell you exactly what the percentage is for that work that it caught in the system. Normally what happens is if your percentage is, say it's 28%, you just need to get a few things out. Your mentor will send Dr. Robbie an email like, hey, can you please exclude these 2 sources? And once we exclude those 2 or 3 sources, that's normally going to bring it into the correct percentage. If for some reason the first time we exclude some things and it still doesn't bring it into the acceptable range, we would just have to go back and do it again. So we can still exclude more. We have to exclude the total amount until we can get into an acceptable range for the percentage.
Hey, Marcus, can I add to that?
One moment, Dr. Robbie. Alex.
All right. Okay.
Yes. For every submission that you do of your 4 submissions that are allowed, we have to exclude all of the works each time.
Anything that, oh, thank you. Sorry, guys, if you can hear me now. So the question was, if the submission has a lot of percentages that are less than 1% or 1%, and it's still giving you something over 24%, you can still ask us to exclude it if you can just show us that it's like references, if it's minor things. Because the way that Turnitin is set up right now is that it's going to identify any group of words that's 3 or more that's similar to anything else that's published. So I know a lot of you guys work in the same lab, so you're going to have the same like term words, keywords, maybe the same procedures. A lot of times it's the methods that gets pulled in because everyone uses the same methods. Yeah. No, and I understand that. And that's what I'm saying. If you have that, you can let us know. But what we're really worried about is like giant yeah. So if you don't have previous work in your submission and you're still getting like 39%, this percent, that's what we're worried about. Stuff like that, it's not really meant to be punitive. It's just more of a, hey, just be careful how you word stuff.
Are there any other questions or questions in the chat? Okay. Tiffany, we can advance.
Can I
Oh,
add
I'm sorry,
something?
Dr. Robbie, I forgot.
No worries, Marcus. So, Alex said a couple of things I think that are important. The first is that This is not meant to be punitive whatsoever. Again, we're trying to ensure that your work is original and avoid any problems in the future that might come up. So that's the first thing. We're just trying to help you maintain the originality of your work. Another thing that Alex mentioned is that lots of times it is methods and materials, and we can exclude those. And so again, in discussions with your mentor, if there are things that we can do to help, just let us know, and we'll do as much as we can to help meet that standard that's been set by the GSBS. Thanks.
Thank you. So as I talked about a little bit earlier, your mentor will need to contact Dr. Robbie to request the exclusions. So a lot of the times, Alex, Laura, and myself, we're like the front line for the dissertations and ProQuest and different things. But this particular thing, you have to email Dr. Robbie, or your mentor has to email Dr. Robbie. We can be copied on it, but he has to be aware of it. Once you make that request, then we will go in behind the scenes and exclude those sources from your work. This will need to be done for the initial upload and the final upload. But as we were also saying, if you have to go multiple times, we have to do it for each of your attempts. So in the initial, if we have to do it 2 times, we'll have to exclude everything for those 2 times. The new score will be reflected in the similarity report, but it won't show in Canvas. So once you go into your submission and you go to the report, you'll see the new percentage there. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, Tiffany. So the general format of the paper, all of this stuff can be found on our website. You'll have access to this link. I don't want to try to pull it up now because it may mess up the presentation. But the rubrics, the template, especially the new template that Alex just spent time putting together, is super helpful. It's the full template for what your submission should look like. Everyone should use that template as a base, and then you can modify with your material. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to shoot an email to Laura, myself, or Alex regarding the formatting. We will eventually look over your submission, but if you have questions before while you're working on it, just send us an email or stop by, or however you want to reach us, and we can answer your questions. So in terms of using third-party content, you must obtain permission from the owner of that work. You can't just put it in there on a whim. So the written permission must be submitted to the graduate dean's office. If you're unable to obtain the permission, then you have to do some kind of modification to include that. So redraw or trace or redact the images or the references where it can be found. We can't put it in there and not credit it without modifying it. Any questions about using third-party content?
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, so 99% of the time, most of the stuff that you use already has permissions because it's published a certain way. So you don't necessarily have to get the permission if it's already given by like the publisher. In the rare occasion that you do have to get permission, we have a template on the website of like a letter that you can send the person requesting permission.
So I don't know if y'all were able to hear Alex or not. Most of the time in this case, where you're getting it from, you wouldn't need the permission, but there are a few rare instances where you would need to request the permission, and the template for how to request that permission can be found on the website. Okay, Tiffany. All right, so what if I want to use my previous work? So this is a question that Jacob asked earlier. So these are different things. So first you need to determine who owns the copyright. If the copyright is held by the publisher, then you need to get the permission from the publisher. If you're the author, you should be able to use your own work with no issue. If the copyright is held by 2 or more authors, you need to obtain permission from those co-authors. And then you will add a footnote to the section to show that you obtained the permission. So first, the number one thing you need to do is identify who has the rights to the work. Once you do that, you can see what your next step would be. If it's yours, don't worry about it. If it's someone else's, you can request permission from them. Next slide, please. All right, so ProQuest requirements. These are the first things that we look at before we even take a look at your paper. When we go into ProQuest, we can see your submission, and there's a few questions that it asks in that website. So first it says to list your committee members, list keywords and subject categories. A lot of times, students do not do both of these. You have to list something for your keywords and your subject categories. Even if it's just a couple of things, please be sure to do that. You must sign and upload your copyright disclaimer. Every single student must do these steps. So this is before we even looked at your 200 pages or 160 pages or whatever it is. We look at this part first. And then these other things, make sure that your PDF is optimized for printing. There's no like special password to access your submission. Like we don't need to put a password to view your PDF. All the fonts are embedded in there. And you really don't have to worry about the graphics resolution. I don't think y'all encounter any issues with that. The main thing to take from this slide is list your members, your keywords, your subject categories, and sign your copyright disclaimer. So these questions on this slide are things that you want to consider when you're going to submit. We will answer each one of these in a future slide. So first, I'm just going to read the questions. What kind of publishing do you want? Is there sensitive info or unpublished data in your paper? Do you want to copyright your work? And do you want to order physical bound copies of your paper? So based on these questions, you'll have a certain answer. And based on that answer, it will direct your path in which way you should go. Okay, Tiffany.
Oh, and on a note here, if you're unsure if you should copyright your work, that's a discussion you should have with your mentor.
All right, so publishing your work. Most students will choose to do the traditional publishing. This is completely free and is what most people choose to do. If you want to do open access, there is a fee of $95. So if in case you're wondering what open access is, open access allows for the widest possible distribution of your work. So basically you're paying to put it into every place that it can be. Most students only do the traditional route. However, if you want to, you can also choose the open access. The second bullet point is just about the institutional repository. So all of the work that is done by students here will be available, in the UT Health School repository. An embargo. So this can be used if you're waiting for a patent or if your paper contains unpublished data. The embargo typically would allow for 1 year delay. However, if you need to request a longer delay, you would have to email Dr. Robbie with the justification for the delay. So that decision is something that you and your mentor should talk about. So there's 3 main reasons for why you may want an embargo. You are publishing your dissertation in a journal that prefers to publish your document first. You have a patent pending on an idea presented in your dissertation. Or you have mentioned sensitive materials and or names which cannot be released at the time of publication. Those are the 3 major reasons for why you would want an embargo. As I mentioned earlier, most of the time you would do 1 year, but you can send a request asking for up to 2 years.
Just to touch on that, your whole submission, once it's sent to ProQuest, the only thing that will be visible is the abstract. No one else will be able to see your actual work until it is released.
Any other questions about the recent slides? All right, so the copyright discussion is a discussion that you should have with your mentor. That's optional, you don't have to do it, but please talk with your mentor about that. It can be purchased for $75, and you need to make note of that during your initial submission into ProQuest. So before you're going to submit, you should have already had that conversation with your mentor. If there's already an existing copyright, you don't need to purchase another. Alex, do you want to touch on the adding the copyright later part of it?
Yes. So as far as the copyright, if for some reason you decide to not go through ProQuest, which I do honestly hope that you guys do consider because they do all the paperwork for you, you can follow these steps to either create a whole new submission. You don't have to worry about getting edits and doing it that way, or you can go to copyright.gov to get the ProQuest. Get the copyright for it. And as Marcus mentioned, if you have an existing copyright on any of the material, like if it's your own work, then you don't have to file for another copyright. And when you do file for copyright, it's only under your name. It is not under you and your mentor, you and any of your lab mates. It's just under you.
Thanks, Alex. Tiffany, we can go to the next slide. So physical bound copies, these are not required at all. But if you're going to do a bound copy, please add a blank fly paper to the beginning. So that's like a blank page that's at the very beginning of your file. That way, once it's bound, well, y'all understand. So right now, departments are not allowed to provide the students with a physical bound copy. So you would have to make that decision on your own if you wanted your own bound copy. And these sites that are listed on the slide, that's just where you can get binding done. All right, so what happens once my dissertation or thesis has been submitted? So in the past, what we used to do was wait until everything was complete and then send you all this information. The graduate school is trying to be more proactive and sending you this once you submit your initial submission. So you get the surveys. The PhD students will have an additional survey, but you get your surveys, you have to sign up for the alumni site, and you have to do the post survey as well. So these are links that we send to you, individual links that we send to you. And once you complete those, that's part of your process. You have to do the dissertation and the thesis successfully, but you also have to complete all the surveys and sign up for our alumni site. This is not optional. All of these steps are required.
Just to touch on the exit survey, please give us as much information as you can. We do not sell your information. We use this for data that we need either to show post-employment. We use it for program reviews. We're not going to bother you, I promise. We just need the information because we also use it when you get presented to GSC. So if you are getting a new job, if you're continuing education, please put that on the survey.
So for the survey of earned doctorate, you will receive a certificate. So once we have that certificate, that serves as proof that you completed that. And then Alex will have access to the other GSBS survey information. Please be sure that you check the email that you listed in ProQuest. That's what we're going to be contacting you with to make the revisions. We don't, say for example, you submitted today and we look over it the next day. If you don't check your email for a week, you're not even going to know about those requested changes for a week. So it's important, the sooner that you check the email and make those corrections or ask us about the corrections, then we can keep moving forward. It's normally going to take three or four rounds of revisions to complete everything. The first one is like a general overview. Then we see some little technical things. And then we have like a final review and maybe like a page number review. So it's very thorough in the things that we're looking for. But normally it's going to take between 2 to 4 submissions. So just stay proactive and stay on top of your emails. But if you ever have questions about what we're asking, please be sure to let us know. If you don't understand what we're asking of you, just let us know and we can try to explain it in a different way. Or if you need to, we can set up a virtual call or a face-to-face meeting to discuss how to make those revisions. Oh, and as I mentioned, all these things are required. So before you can have your degree conferred, you have to complete these steps. Are there any questions about the survey links or the alumni site or anything that's mentioned on this slide? Any questions in the chat? All right. Okay, so what if I need to make changes on ProQuest? So Alex submits everything 1 week after the official conferral date. So you finish your paper, everything looks good. Then everyone meets and says, yes, the student can receive their degree. Once that degree conferral is approved, then she will submit all of those papers to ProQuest. So if you want to submit a signed approval page, you can do so for printing physical copies. But as we mentioned, Tiffany mentioned much earlier in the presentation, we encourage you to just have those blank approval pages with just your committee members and the graduate, the dean. You don't have to have the signatures for those approval pages anymore. But if you would like, you are able to do so. If you need to change your physical address, check on the status of physical copies. If you have any other ProQuest inquiries, you can contact them directly at the email address or the phone number listed here. Make sure you give them all the information that you have access to, and they can help you along the way. And I think that's my last, yes. So then Dr. Robbie will take over from here.
I'm back. Thanks, Tiffany, Marcus, and Alex for leading that. We have lots of resources available on our website, and I encourage you to go check those things out. There's a graduation page. There's a thesis and dissertation page. The graduation page provides the timelines that need to be followed with respect to meeting the conferral deadlines that we have in place. If there's something on there that is confusing or you have questions, please reach out to us and let us know. It's better to be to have the correct information instead of being confused. So please do reach out to us. And Tiffany, I don't remember if I was supposed to say something else about this slide or not.
I don't think so. There's several things listed on this site. So if we aren't available to answer a question, it's getting close to a holiday and people are out of the office, check the website. There's so much information here. As we get closer to commencement and hooding, those questions and things are listed at the bottom as well. And then if you click on the tab that says Dissertation and Thesis Guidelines, Alex has worked really hard to create several different templates available for you. So if you're not sure exactly what an approval page is supposed to look like or any of the like tables and things are supposed to look like, go over there, click on templates. There's even an entire template for a dissertation and thesis that's pre-formatted for you. So take advantage of that. And then there's a rubric that is posted on the guidelines page as well, that if you complete the items in the rubric, then by the time you get to revisions, you shouldn't have much to change. So that is an option, not required to go through the full rubric, but I would say it's a good idea.
And you can actually go through that rubric with Marcus or Laura and even save additional time on the revision process. But again, it's not required. It's recommended, but not required. All right, next slide. So again, you know, there are lots of steps in this process. And once everything's been signed, sealed, and delivered, it will be your degree will be presented by your COGS chair at GFC. The Graduate Faculty Council meets the second Friday of every month. And so that's why our deadline for having everything completed is the first Friday of every month, that there's conferral. So in December, you know, that first Friday is going to be the deadline for conferral in December, because the second Friday GFC meets to discuss and vote and approve your degree. And then once that happens, we send everything to the registrar, and with the stamp that says you're good to go, you will also know, Tiffany will reach out and let you know that everything's honky-dory and that GFC is again approved, and the registrar has the information they need to officially confer your degree at the end of that month. Again, in terms of diplomas, you want to make sure that your mailing address is accurate and any holds you have are cleared, because you don't want your diploma going to the wrong address, and you don't want to hold preventing you from receiving your diploma. So please go there and check. And then it takes about 6 weeks from the conferral date. So we're looking probably for December conferral, looking at sometime early February perhaps, to get your actual diploma. If you haven't received your diploma within that time frame, let us know and we can follow up with the registrar for you and see what's going on.
I will note that holds on your student account that will count towards holding back your diploma and your transcripts usually are inclusive of your keys, your ID badge, and your parking pass. Anything that's like an old orientation hold or an immunization hold on your account will not count against you.
The one thing I will also add, since Tiffany reminded me, is that in some cases, some of you may be staying on at UT Health for a postdoc. That requires a little bit more finessing, and it requires collaboration with the Office of Postdoctoral Affairs and us to ensure all that transition goes smoothly. So if you do know once you graduate you're going to stay on and do a postdoc, let us know and we can start working out those details sooner rather than later. Like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to be a postdoc. What do I need to do? And that usually causes lots of angst in two offices instead of just one.
And then if you need a letter of completion for a postdoc or new employment, just send me an email, let me know, and then I can generate a letter stating that your degree has been finalized or will be finalized pending GFC review, and we can get those letters sent out for you.
I think we're on to the last slide, right?
Yeah.
Or are there two more slides? Again, there's a list of characters that will help you get things done at any time during that process. Please feel free to reach out to us, and we will do everything within our power to help you. And then I think that's the end. Again, if you came in late, there's the QR code to sign in. Again, we will, I believe, send out the slides and the recording we'll post. So please sign up so we have that you were here and we'll get the correct information. With that,
That's it. Thank you.
Are there any final questions before we turn everyone loose? All right, everybody have a happy Labor Day, a long
Hold on,
3-day
Dr.
weekend.
Robbie, there's
Oh,
one
I'm
question.
sorry.
Can
Okay.
you give her the
shoot.
mic?
Yeah, what is that and why that is not applicable for international students? And is it applicable for international student who gain their green card, and what should be that for a green card holder student? Thank you.
Applicable, you're talking about in absentia?
Yes, she's wondering why it's not applicable to international students and if it is applicable to international students who have recently obtained a green card.
If you've recently obtained a green card, then you have different requirements than if you are on a visa status. So you can check with the Office of International Services, but I feel that you should be fine unless you're on an education visa. The reason that in absentia status is not applicable to international students is because it's considered a 0 credit hour status. And Homeland Security does not view a 0 credit hour status as meeting the requirement of being a student.
Good answers. Thank you.
There's no
I
more
would also,
questions.
I would also say that none of us in the graduate school office are experts on visas, and would also highly recommend that for those types of questions, you reach out to the Office of International Services. And that also raises a point about OPT. I know that some of you international students will be doing OPT. I work very closely with International Services on that process as well. And there is a time frame in which you have to submit OPT documentation. And please work with OIS, and I'll get involved in that process as well.
Thank you, Dr. Robbie, and thank you everyone for joining us. Y'all have a wonderful Labor Day weekend.
Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Are we good, Alex?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks.